Hey, welcome back to the channel, Austin with Gone in 60, and welcome. We are now on, I think, our third or fourth video around my Cobra Mustang 2001 that I'm trying to desperately get repaired. So I wanted to run through some of the parts that I've tried on the car, and we're going to troubleshoot it today. So I've replaced the idle air control valve. It didn't fix anything. I replaced the mass airflow sensor, although it wasn't motorcraft, didn't fix anything. Replaced fuel rail pressure sensor, throttle position sensor, PCV valve, air filter, spark plugs, downstream O2 sensors, and fuel filter. And I have yet to fix my surging problem that I've had. And in today's video, we're actually going to get it fixed. So stick around to the end. You're going to see actually what helped fix the car. And down the road, I have more problems. So let's jump into it. So first, AutoZone went in there, ran their code reader, and it said that I need to replace my downstream O2 sensors. And so I did just that. Now, what I think happens with these cars is it's almost like, I just feel like sometimes you're just chasing this rabbit hole of codes. And sometimes I'm like, man, is the code reader reading it right? Am I getting the right check engine codes? Like, I just feel like when certain things are off on the car, the system just kind of guesses like what's wrong with it. And so it said that I need to replace my downstream O2 sensors, and so that's what we're going to be doing in part of this video. So the downstream O2 sensors are much easier to get at underneath the car versus the upstream O2 sensors. The upstream O2 sensors are kind of a pain to get to. There's not as much space on there, but I was able to get to the downstream O2 sensors. Was pretty easy. And, you know, I just got what was from AutoZone. I think these were Bosch O2 sensors, if I remember right, that I put on there. And so, yeah, this didn't take very long at all. It was actually really easy to do. It was my first time replacing O2 sensors on a car. But O2 sensors, just so you guys know, a lot of them are pre and post cat, and it just helps, you know, if your cars are running rich, it can throw check engine codes, different things, and your O2 sensors, you know, help the catalytic converter, help the engine run correctly. And it said I needed downstream O2 sensors. I do believe this helped fix a little bit of the smoking that I had. But I also think there's some things that I adjust in the video on parts that actually make it so, you know, the smoking and some of that went away. Some of you noticed on some of the videos that I had on startup and revs that the car was smoking a little bit. The car was running really rich, wasn't running right. But definitely doesn't do that anymore. And so replacing the downstream O2 sensors definitely could have helped with that. If you guys have experience with replacing O2 sensors and some of the challenges that maybe you've had or what to look for, but typically you have your upstream and your downstream, and so I just replaced both downstreams. You could probably make an argument that I probably should have done the upstream ones as well, pre-cat, but decided not to do that. So anyways, we got those fixed up, got those changed, and you know, I started up the car to see like, hey, is it running any better? And honestly, it didn't make the car, you know, it didn't make the car run any better. It just, you know, it was still really normal. It ran the same. So replacing the O2 sensors, you know, I partly think that there's some other things wrong with the car, and we'll get to them in future videos, that probably was making the ECU guess what was wrong with the car. And it might not have been the O2 sensors. But over here, I was just checking a lot of different things. I was looking at the EGR valve. I believe it's called the EGR valve. I was cleaning it out. I was doing the best I could just to try different things. I started messing a lot with the throttle position sensor, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the video, of the throttle position sensor that was on the car, how it was modified and what we fixed. So here, I just wanted to test, you know, is the throttle position sensor actually doing its job? You know, is it opening the throttle at the right time? Is it closing it? And so that's one thing that I definitely wanted to check, and yeah, works just fine. Now let's get to the fuel pressure. So I'll let you guys watch this, and then I'll provide some commentary about it. But essentially, there's a lot of opinions out there of where the PSI should be with fuel pressure between 30 and 40. Some say it needs to be like 40 or above. Some say if you're like mid 30s, you know, it's not good. So I revved it up there, but yeah, tested the fuel pressure, and I did this from the Schrader valve is where I tested it from, and these are the results that I got on there. So right there, you can see where I've hooked up on the Schrader valve. You can get these from AutoZone to test your fuel pressure. Some people said, yeah, Austin, your fuel pump's dead, it's dying, and we'll find that out in a later video, but I didn't see anything too alarming or too big of drops. It did drop below 30 on the revs, but test the fuel pressure, seemed fine. Here you can see I then threw a check engine code finally for a throttle position sensor. So I ended up changing out the throttle position sensor, and you're going to see that, you know, in upcoming clips of changing out the throttle position sensor. The biggest thing that I will say, as I've learned in working on the Cobra Mustang, is it's actually phenomenally easy to work on. There's so much space. It's really easy to work on and change out all the parts. I mean, you can see from the start of the video of all the different parts that I've changed out. But I will say this, these cars are extremely temperamental in not just the replacing like a throttle position sensor, mass airflow sensor, but that you're using the manufacturer's parts. And a lot of you are going to go, duh, Austin, I know, but as you go to AutoZone O'Reilly's, they don't have those. So it's really important on Fords to use Motorcraft whenever possible on every single thing that possibly is made by Motorcraft to replace your parts on. I've learned that the hard way. You'll see that in upcoming videos because I replaced some parts with AutoZone parts or O'Reilly's parts that were not Motorcraft. They didn't fix the problem. Then I later went to actually use Motorcraft parts and it actually fixed the problem. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned in working on these is, you know, OEM, get Ford parts. It just makes a difference, and some of these parts might be faulty from the factory in that. So I did change the throttle position sensor. That's how it idled. I do want to show a clip here. So on the far right, this was a throttle position sensor that was on the car, and you can see where you have the metal rings on the one on the left and you have over here on the right, they actually drilled out the holes where you put the screws into the throttle position sensor, and they do that. There's different reasons you can do that because you get certain voltage that comes to the throttle position sensor, but it's obvious that someone had modified the throttle position sensor, and this is a new one over on the left from AutoZone that you guys saw of how it ran when it started up. It didn't clear the check engine code, and it didn't fix my problems. You're going to see in the upcoming video clips here, but something to note, that was modified, tampered with. So this is me actually driving it to a mechanic. I finally said F it, and I was driving down the freeway, I was driving on the road, and check engine light was on, and guess what it was for? Throttle position sensor. So I actually took it down to Doug's, can't remember his shop name, I'm going to say it here in a second, but let me go ahead to this clip. All right, we're in the silver Stang, silver turd, whatever you want to call it. I've replaced a ton of things on this car and tried things. I have done the mass airflow sensor, I've done spark plugs, I've done air filter, I've replaced two O2 sensors, I've replaced a fuel filter, I've tried a fuel pressure regulator, I've tried an idle air control valve, I've tried a TPS sensor. I'm starting to have this narrowed down, I think, in my opinion. Something is wrong with the TPS sensor. Car runs really rich still. I also think I might have a fuel pump problem, even though I test the fuel pressure, because what I've noticed is more gas that's in the car runs better. So I think outside of changing the fuel pump, the pre-cat O2 sensors, and maybe getting a Motorcraft TPS sensor. I didn't use Motorcraft, so maybe that's the problem. I don't think coil packs are the problem. So anyways, I'm trying to do this smart. I'm trying to do this different than I did my yellow car, and like literally spend next to no money, diagnose everything myself, try to fix everything myself. But I want to have a mechanic that kind of specializes in these cars, look over it just to see what I'm missing, because I also could think that maybe I have maybe a tune on the car, or something with the computer that maybe just isn't right. But anyways, taking this down to Provo, give you guys an update by having the car looked at. All right, so update. If you guys are in Utah, Doug's Auto Repair, the guy is like, he's awesome. My father-in-law knows him, man. He's got such rare Cobras and Shelbys. He's got so many cool different cars. Anyways, so here's kind of the update on what was wrong, or what he thinks is wrong. He checked the O2 sensors, ran complete diagnostics on the car. O2 sensors are fine. They're doing what they're supposed to. He doesn't think the fuel pump is bad. The TPS sensor, he's getting a no voltage reading at the TPS sensor. So he's getting voltage up to the sensor, but the sensor itself is getting no reading. So it's like nothing at all. And so
I'd replaced that with a Valuecraft part from AutoZone. I'm gonna try to get a Motorcraft one, which is the Ford brand, and I'm gonna try that. If that doesn't fix it, then we probably got a broken wire somewhere or something within the wire harness. So that's kind of next step, is getting, you know, a better brand TPS sensor on it. But I at least know, hey, I don't have to go hunt down the fuel pump. I don't have to go change out, you know, more O2 sensors. Nothing with the coil packs or spark plugs. It's healthy there. It's a TPS sensor for now. So keep you guys posted.
So long story short, I replaced the throttle position sensor with Motorcraft, and look at the car run. This is after being warmed up, wasn't cold, even got a little sideways. Woo! Love it. The car ran great. So the throttle position sensor, after all of that, I replaced it with not OEM parts, and it didn't fix the throttle position sensor, and I finally changed it into Motorcraft, and surprise, surprise, the car ran great. My check engine light went away, and so far for now, I solved my problems, but stick around. The car dies on me in an upcoming video, and we're back at it. Thanks guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.